Hello everyone, my name is Chetan Savade. I am working with Symantec as a technical analyst. Today we are going to see how we can install SEPM 12.1 as a fresh installation by using SQL database. Let's start. First, we should know why and when we should use SQL. If you have more than 5000 workstations in your network, then you cannot continue with default database that is embedded. You will have to install SQL. Second, ease of database maintenance. Third, customized database report can be pulled from the database using SQL query. Fourth, it is reliable. Fifth, you can use it for failover and load balancing as well. Let's see what are the supported SQL versions with SEPM. If you are installing on 32-bit operating system, then Microsoft SQL Server 2000 with Service Pack 4 or later, Microsoft SQL Server 2005 with Service Pack 2 or later, Microsoft SQL Server 2008. If you are installing on 64-bit operating system, then Microsoft SQL Server 2000 with Service Pack 3 or later, Microsoft SQL Server 2005 with Service Pack 2 or later, Microsoft SQL Server 2008. SQL client is required if SQL Server is installed on remote machine. There are few non-supported SQL versions like MSDE, Express or compact version of any SQL flavor. How to check SQL version? Go to SQL Server Management Studio. As you can see, version number is 9.00.1399.06. It's not simple to understand version, so I have created version code and their details. As you can see, 10.00.4000 means you are using SQL Server 2008 with Service Pack 2. If version code is 10.00.2531 means you are using SQL Server 2008 with Service Pack 1 and on. Now we will see how to install native client if SQL Server is on remote machine. Start the Microsoft SQL Server installation CD and begin the installation process. In the Start window, click Server Components, Tools, Books Online and Samples. Continue the installation until you are prompted to select component to install. In the Components Install dialog box, click Advanced. In the left pane, click and expand Client Components. Click Client Components and then select Will be installed on local drive. Click Client Component Feature Connectivity Components and Management Tools. Then select Will be installed on local hard drive, and then complete the installation. Just now we saw how to install native client. Now we will see how to configure native client. To configure native client, Start, Programs, Microsoft SQL Server 2005, Configuration Tools, SQL Server Configuration Manager. Under SQL native client configuration, click Client Protocols, right click TCP/IP and then click Properties. In the default port box, type the port number that matches the port that is used by Microsoft SQL Server 2005 instance. Make a note of this that the default port is typically 1433. You specify this port number when you create the database. For security reason, Symantec recommends to use any other port than 1433 as hackers are aware of 1433 port. What information we require from SQL Server? We should know SQL port number, SQL database name, SQL username and password, SQL client folder path if SQL is on remote machine, DBA username, DBA password and database data folder. So in all previous slides we saw what are the resources required to configure SEPM with SQL. Let's summarize it. SQL Server should be installed in the network. If SQL Server is not in supported version, we should have SQL Server upgraded to Service Pack 2 or higher. If SQL Server is on remote machine, then we need SQL native client to be installed on computer where we are installing Symantec Endpoint Protection Manager. If SQL and SEPM on same machine, we don't need native client. Now let's start SEPM installation. But before installation, we should know what are the prerequisites to complete successful installation. Processor, 32-bit processor, 1 GHz Intel Pentium 3 or equivalent minimum. 64-bit processor, 2 GHz Pentium 4 with x86-64 support or equivalent minimum. Node, Intel Itanium i64 and PowerPC processors are not supported. Physical RAM, 1 GB of RAM for 32-bit operating systems, 2 GB of RAM for 64-bit operating system or higher if required by the operating systems. Hard drive, 4 GB or more free space. Display 800 x 600. Operating system, Windows 7, Windows XP Home or Professional, Windows Server Version 3, Windows Server Version 8, Windows Small Business Server Version 8, Windows Small Business Server Version 11, Windows Essential Business Server Version 8. As you can see, IIS is not prerequisite and you can install on Windows 7. So these are the two changes which we can observe if we compare with the SEP 11. Note, clients before version 12.1 can be managed by this version of the Symantec Endpoint Protection Manager regardless of the client operating system. Web browser, Microsoft Internet Explorer 7, 8 or 9, Mozilla Firefox 3.6 or 4.0. Mozilla Firefox 5.0 is not supported. The Symantec Endpoint Protection Manager includes an embedded database, and this is the only choice in Symantec Small Business Edition. In the Enterprise version, you may use the embedded database or one of the following version of Microsoft SQL Server. SQL Server Version with Service Pack 4 or later, SQL Server Version 5 with Service Pack 2 or later, or SQL Server Version 8. If you are installing Symantec Endpoint Protection Manager with SQL database on same computer, then minimum 4 GB of RAM is recommended. Now let's start SEPM installation. To install, first you will have to download Symantec software from https fileconnect.symantec.com. Once you downloaded software, please extract it before installation. Once you extracted, go inside SEPM folder and click on setup file, which is fourth from the bottom. Once you click on setup initialization process will start. In the background, it will check compatibility of the system. This is the welcome page. Click on next. This is the license agreement page. Please go through it and accept the license agreement. Choose destination folder where you would like to deploy SEP. By default, it goes to C program file Symantec Endpoint Protection Manager. Make sure your C drive has sufficient disk space, so in the future it won't run out of disk space. If you want to change default location, click on change. If you click on change, select desired drive and then select desired location and then click on OK. Click on install. In the background, it will start to copy file. It will register files on the system. Once it completed, it will bring you to the next page. It will take you to the management server and console installation summary page. Click on next. This is the new splash screen in SEP 12.1. This is the place from where your manager server configuration wizard will start. It's giving two options. One is default configuration and second is custom configuration. Default configuration means you would like to install SEP 12.1 with default database that is embedded, and ports will be predefined by Symantec. You cannot modify ports. You will see custom configuration to install SEP with SQL database. Here it will ask how many clients do you have in your network. So according to number of clients, select desired option and click on next. By default, embedded database supports 5000 clients. If you have more than 5000 clients, then go with SQL. We are creating this video for SQL. We will go with SQL. Click on next. Here it's asking install my first site, install an additional management server to an existing site, install an additional site. As we are doing fresh installation, we will continue with first option, install my first site. Second and third option is for failover and load balancing. Click on next. It's asking, do you want to configure ports? If you want, you can modify ports if they are already in use. Click on next. Select the type of database. We are creating this video for SQL. We will continue with SQL. Users have two choices of creating a new database or reuse existing one. If you are creating a new database, select first option, create new database and click on next. It will ask you what authentication would you like to prefer, SQL Server authentication or Windows authentication. 1433 port will be used by default as we discussed earlier. If SQL Native Client is installed, then SQL Server Client folder path should automatically come up. Enter required credentials and click on next. But now we will see what happens when we select second option, use an existing database. If you are selecting use an existing database, it will ask your database name, database username and database password. Enter those credentials and click on next. Enter your company name. Username admin is predefined, so it is grayed out, you cannot change. Enter your password. Confirm password. This is the new option. SAP will tell you how strong your password is, whether it is weak, strong, etc. This is an extra layer of security in SAP 12.1. Enter email address on which you would like to receive system notifications. Enter your partner details, that is email address, customer ID, partner website. If you want, you can fill it up, but it's not mandatory. Click on next. It will take you to the encryption password page. Type your encryption password and make a note of it, because in the future you may require it. This is data collection page. Check mark is optional. Click on next. It will start database initialization process. This process may take some time. Once database initialization process completed, it will bring you to the management server configuration wizard completed screen. By default, launch Symantec Endpoint Protection Manager is selected. Once you click on finish, it will bring you to the SAP login screen. As you can see, on the home page of Symantec Endpoint Protection Manager, there is an option forgot your password. This is the new option in SAP 12.1 if we compare with SAP 11. Okay, now let's summarize all the things. First, install SQL Server. Install SQL native client if SQL is on remote machine. Install SAP. Select SQL database as a new database or use an existing database. Enter required credentials. Complete the installation. Log into SAP. I hope this has been informative and thanks for viewing.